Gavotta. I'm going to show you how to practice it so that you not only learn it quickly, but efficiently and stylishly. So the first thing you need to do, as with any piece, is look at your key signature, even if you've been playing it for weeks. So 3 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp. So what you need to do before you launch into the piece is find them. So there's your F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. Okay, and that will get your hand in the right shape and hopefully your brain thinking about those particular notes. Now, it's a Baroque piece, so that means all your quavers and crotchets need to have gaps in between. So I will play you the first 2 lines and just have a listen to the notes after the tie and then the quavers and crotchets. You need to start with your bow on the string just below the middle, because all your quavers and semi-quavers in particular, you need to be in the upper half of the bow. So 1, 2. And so on. So as you noticed in the first bar, after the tie, gap, short quavers, tiny gaps. You definitely want to avoid those quavers that are long and all gluey. That's definitely not in the period of Baroque music. So, and that's the same for any Baroque piece you play. So Baroque composers, Bach, Handel, Corelli, Vivaldi, any of these, that is always what you will do with those crotchets and quavers. Now, looking at the 3rd line, that's obviously the tricky bit, it's the semi-quavers. So obviously practice them slowly for tuning. Now, the bar to watch out for will be bar 11, the A natural, the end of the bar, and then bar 12, your first note, the D sharp. And then you've got to go back to the A natural again in bar 12. So practice that, because that will be your 3rd finger being very out of tune. And then join them up. And then stop on the A to again make sure you revisit that A at the same pitch you did in bar 11. Now, once you've learned that slowly, it will become a problem once you play it quickly for lots of reasons. Firstly, the coordination between your fingers and the bow. So how you fix that, and this will be the same with any semi-quaver passage in this piece or any piece for that matter. So have a look, this is from bar 10, and we're going to slur 1 bar to 1 bow. So bar 10. And then do it at different speeds, and that you'll be able to hear if you're coordinated or not. Then practice it in rhythms. So and then the other way, so a Scottish snap rhythm, which is this one. And then a combination of both rhythms. And bear in mind, you will definitely be doing this with the semiquavers on the 2nd page as well. So a combination of 2. And then turn the rhythm the other way, so you get your Scottish snap rhythm first. The reason we're doing this is because it actually gets your fingers working at different speeds and the bow, so that if you can play it like that, you can definitely play them evenly. So then when you've done that, then think about playing them evenly, but accenting different notes. So maybe the first note and the second note. And so on, and then the first and third. And the first and fourth. And so on. If you do that with every semiquaver passage you have, suddenly, once you play it up to speed, it'll be hugely easier. Now, speed is also going to be an issue. So what I have for that, once you've done all the rhythms and slurred it, is my metronome. So you don't have to have one of these, you can just use an app on your phone. This just gives you different speeds. And if you start slowly and then gradually work it up, you'll get it evenly and in tune. Keep checking the notes. Keep stopping on random notes. So, for example, I'm going to stop on the first note of the second bar of the semiquavers. This is the first note of bar 11 I'm going to stop on. So, and just check that's in tune. Check it with your open A string. And that's how you'll fix that passage. Now, if you look at bar 13, 2 ups at the end of bar 13, up, up, 1, come off on 2, and then you want to start with your bow in the middle again. So I know bar 14 is a minim, which is 2 beats, but you want to do 1 beat there, come off on 2 so that you can get your bow back, and then you're starting the next passage in the right part of the bow. It's also stylish. If you were singing the passage, you'd have to take a breath somewhere. So that's a natural place to take the bow off. Now, you might have a little issue, bar 13, getting from the open E to the F sharp, open E string, to the D string. So again, just practice that, take it separately, stop the bow, and get the bow over the string as quickly as you can. We want to avoid all that goo in the middle. So you have to lighten your right hand and then grab the bow as soon as you hit the D string. And then that way you won't hear this. So just be careful of that one. Then the second half, bar 15. Well, that's the same as the first half. So all you need to know is start with your bow on the string in the middle. So as you say, if you make your last note the E shorter, that'll give you time to get your bow round. The only problem in that line will be your C sharp on bar 17. So what I can guarantee will happen is this, and you're just going to keep missing that note. Now, if you keep going at it like all the time, all you're doing is practicing hitting the wrong note. Then whenever you come to perform it, you're still hitting the wrong note. So if I were you, I'd get a tiny sticky dot and just put it where that C sharp goes, so that every time, slowly, you're not going to do that, okay? Or we want to avoid that. So you can play it 10 times in a row and each time you'll hit it. Then take the dot away, because then your muscle memory will be in action there, and that will solve any out of tune notes. Now, from bars 20 onwards, those bottom 2 lines of the first page, they are the really tricky bars for lots of reasons. The first thing you need to do is just completely separate it out. So you're only going to play the semiquavers. So this is bar 20, 22 and 24. The first thing to make sure, again, that you're in the right part of the bow, the middle to the upper half, and slowly, it'll be the 4th finger having trouble getting down. So again, practice the semiquavers exactly how you did the passage earlier on in the piece, and that will sort that one out. Ignore the next bar of quavers, go to the next bar of semiquavers, and the same, the next one, to make sure they're really even, really in tune. When you can play those, you're going to think about stringing them together. But the main tricky bars are going to be 21, 23 and 25. So 21, B sharp is the same as a C natural. So first of all, play your C natural, second finger back on the A string, and then the C natural on the G string. And just do that a few times just to really get comfy. And also the bowing is going to be tricky. Lighten the bow in between the A string and the G string. Then you've got your C natural, find your F sharp on the E string. The 1's going to go right next to your second finger. If you're not sure, just play B and C, because that's exactly the same as putting your first finger across to the E string. So do that a few times. And that should mean your first 2 notes of bar 21 will be in tune. Then add the C string, add the C at the bottom. Then have a look at bar 23. Same procedure. A sharp is the same as B flat. So 1 is back on the A string and 2 is back on the G string. So again, just practice those two notes, ignore the others around it, and then add in your open E's. Same procedure, bar 25. D sharp, got to stretch your third finger. Now, the problem is going to find that B sharp. We already know that B sharp's the same as C natural, but it still doesn't really help you find it from that third finger. So again, just ignore it. Find the G sharp across the string, and then the F sharp. So at the minute, you've got your D sharp in 25, G sharp and F sharp. Now, move the one forward. And practice going D sharp to B, D sharp to C with that first finger, D sharp to B, because that's what you're doing in that particular bar. Then try to play it as a bar. And then you gradually get that faster and faster. You add the note before. So if you're wanting to go into bar 21, add the last note in bar 20, which is a G sharp. So you'll be on an up bow, so make sure you start on the right bow. And also, the problem is going to be being on the right string at the right time. So this is bar 21. Ignore all the fingers this time and make sure your bow is on the right string. We want to avoid all the goo in between. So again, tilt the bow, stop it, play your up bow, tilt the bow, you're now onto the G string, stop the bow, tilt it, and try to play that as cleanly as you can. And again, that will just make sure that whenever you get the right notes, they're not ruined with all the splash in between. They are very, very hard, those two lines, so you have to persevere with them. Then just gradually speed it up. You will have to keep coming back and breaking those bars up. But if you think the B sharps are C naturals and practice it that way, the same, bar 23, the A sharps as B flats, and just pick those notes out, you'll find the whole two lines massively easier. Then, hopping on to the second page, it's more or less the same. The only sort of tricky bit is bar 29. You've got that funny little wiggly thing over the last quaver of bar 29. That's called a mordant. So this is a mordant. B sharp, C sharp, B sharp. 1, 2, 1. You start on the note, you play the note above and come back to the note you started on, and you do it in the same bow. So you're probably going to be an up bow here. If you're not on a down, that's absolutely fine, but I'm going to do it on an up bow. And what would you do? You'd practice that bar without that little mordant in, just to make sure you can play the notes. Now, how you find that B sharp is actually a lot easier in that bar than in bar 25. So as you play the G sharp, keep your second finger down and put the one right next to it. And actually you can practice doing that. Play your C sharp and just put the one next to it. Play the C sharp and put the one next to it. Then, keeping the one down, put the third finger down. There's your G sharp. And take the notes out of order as well, so that your fingers really know what they're doing. And then try go for the beginning of the bar. And then when you're sure you can play it in tune, slowly in tune, that's when you add the mordant. And then the next part is just very, very similar. Same style of bowing, keep the quavers, little gaps in between. Bar 34, again, practice the semi-quavers, how you have done on the first page. And that will sort all of that out, any messy playing. And again, you got a mordant, bar 43. Same procedure, G sharp to A, back to G sharp again. Practice the bar without the mordant. You don't want the mordant to take over and upset the rhythm. It has to stay within the rhythm. You can't go 1, 2. It has to be in time. 1, 2, 1. And then the second to last line, the issue that will be there is because you've got a fifth across the string. You've got your B and your E. So the first thing you need to do is make sure your first finger is in between both strings, because you're not going to have time to move that finger across. It will be very messy and very out of tune. So as you come down, play your open A in bar 46. Make sure You then put your first finger between both. Whenever you play your G sharp, then it's there, and then you'll be able to be doing it a bit quicker. Now, the problem about your last line is that you've just played a G sharp. So I can guarantee that that very first note of your last line, the D, will be out of tune because you just stretched your third finger. So practice going from the G sharp to the D, like that. So it's really right. Then take from the G sharp an E, last two notes, the second to bottom line. And then this will be this U as well. So those two bars are purely going to be a third finger problem. So try and get that in tune. And then gradually speed it up. Do the same things we did in the earlier part. So rhythms, slurs. If you're still untidy with any of those semiquavers, practice them on open strings. So in other words, make sure whatever string you're on at any one time, your bow's on the right string. So what we're going to do, this is bar 47, is to get rid of the fingers and just do the bowing. So at the minute we're on the D string. The next four semiquavers are A string, D string, A string, D string, A string. So going from bar 47, just with the open strings, 1, 2, 1, 2. And slightly faster, 1, 2. And then if you really know what string you should be on with the bow, it'll make putting the fingers in much easier. The last thing to say is your penultimate bar, your next to last bar, up, up. And again, slight ritardando, so just slow down a little bit towards the end because you want everybody to know it's the end and you want to finish really grandly. Again, up, up, slight gaps, not, up, up, and then there's a pause and come off. You want to come off with a flourish with the bow because it's not really just to look fancy. It does serve a purpose. It's so that the sound rings on. Okay, we don't want the sound to stop dead. Now, talking about the sound ringing on, things like that, dynamics. Just because you see a piano, it doesn't mean to say you play the whole passage piano. It has to have dips and dives, and as we talk, we don't all talk on a monotone, hopefully. So any passage, if you see, general rule of thumb, if you see the line going up, crescendo, if it comes down, diminuendo. So that it just makes things a little more interesting. So, and especially if you've got repeated notes, so bar 6 are repeated quavers. Don't just go, that's just really boring, and definitely don't be doing this because that's even worse. So shortish and just crescendo through them. Do something different so that every note just isn't the same dynamic. So 1, 2. So suddenly it makes the piece just much more alive. Think about that in any music that you play. Predominantly when you practice, you want to be really clean and clear and in tune and stylish. Whenever you can play it, that's when you can start adding the dynamics more. You don't want to be concentrating on dynamics whenever you're still trying to find the notes. I hope you found this helpful and informative. If you practice it exactly like that, you will be able to play it. There's never an easy, let's skip over it way of learning a piece. Have fun.